job on Thursday. But I figure let's go kill some time and watch some videos. How about that? There's a Shady Do-Rags video though about Static Shock.
The last thing I wanted to see was his dad's stupid gun. Of course, eventually I would see it. And when I did, it wouldn't be protecting anybody.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Do-Rags here. A few months ago, we took our first look at the show Static Shock. And as soon as you intellectuals finished watching that video, y'all requested en masse that the next Static Shock review should be on Jimmy, the famous episode about bullying and guns. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Shady, if a lot of us requested this, why did it take you so long to finally review it? Well, the answer to that is a bit complicated. You see, as a YouTuber, I have to... Little do they know it's not complicated at all. I intentionally take a long time to get to their requests just to tick them off. Especially that one guy who wears glasses and that girl who's always eating. I like ticking them off the most. Man, it's a good thing no one in my audience will spontaneously develop the ability to read minds. And I don't want to die a painful and fiery death, so I do what I have to and release content when the time is right. By the way, despite Jimmy's reputation and despite me watching Static Shock a ton when it first aired, I've actually never seen this episode. I caught maybe the last 2 minutes, and I know mostly what happens due to hearsay, but this will be my first time watching it all the way through. Anyway, y'all waited long enough for this review. Let's get going. The episode starts at the community center. A crowd surrounds Richie as he's being wheeled out to an ambulance.
Hang in there, Richie. The doctors are going to take care of you.
I never thought it could hurt this much.
Okay, that's a way to start an episode. Virgil comes into the scene and he demands to go to the hospital with Richie, but is denied by his dad. As the ambulance heads out, we transition to a psychologist's office.
You still with me?
Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about, what happened.
Ah, I see. We're doing that trope. The episode has decided it wants to tease the audience by showing its climax first before resetting to the actual beginning of the story. This is a specific type of in medias res where things get told out of order, and like most in medias res, it's done in an attempt to hook the audience and make them stay attentive. The climax is the interesting part, so curiosity makes it so you naturally want to know how the story got to the point it did. I never really know how to feel about this literary trick. On the one hand, a large part of me agrees with Morty.
I'm not a huge fan, personally, of the whole 3 weeks earlier teaser thing. I feel like, we should start our stories where they begin.
I mean, the plot diagram exists for a reason. If you're showing your climax just to keep the audience hooked, it demonstrates that you don't have faith in earlier parts of your story. Maybe if you just made better exposition and rising action, you wouldn't need to rely on an early climax reveal just to keep people engaged. However, when it comes to storytelling, in fact, when it comes to all art, the code is more like Nick Connor walks in, and from his action, stories that would benefit from being lines. You can absolutely break action. You wouldn't need to rely on an early climax reveal just to keep people engaged. However, when it comes to storytelling, in fact, when it comes to all art, the code is more like guidelines. You can absolutely break whatever typical rules are established in your medium as long as you're aware of how doing so will affect your work. The biggest downside to showing the climax early is it can diminish the impact of when that moment comes later. Now that we know Richie will get hurt, when it actually happens, it won't be as big of a shock. Honestly, though, there are stories that would benefit from being told out of order.
I never talked to a psychologist before. Feels kind of weird.
I promise I won't bite.
That's a lie. She will.
I love the way Virgil sits here. I don't know about other youth cultures, but millennials felt like we had to be the kings of bad posture. We were constantly looking for something to lean against, so Virgil pulling a chair and facing it backwards just so he could do that gave me heavy nostalgia. He might have also done it to show his defensiveness. Putting something between you and the person you're talking to is an instinct people do that showcases they're not being open. However, I doubt that's what the writers were going for, since Virgil is doing his best to be cooperative.
You've had a traumatic experience.
That's what my father said.
Oh, no.
He also said there's no way I could have stopped it from happening. I'm not so sure about that.
Virgil recounts the first day he talked to Jimmy Osgood, and we transition to another flashback. As Static, Virgil gets attacked by Carmen Dillo, a pretty low-level bang baby who's an anthro armadillo. This fight was clearly added just to meet the action quota. Technically, it does add to the plot since Virgil being late to school is slightly relevant, but it could have been easily replaced with something more significant.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm late for school.
I hope you get detention.
Why would you tell someone that, Virgil? Especially a villain. Secret identity, remember? Virgil makes his way to school and tries to sneak in the class, but gets caught because he didn't think to look for the teacher by her desk. He notices the aforementioned Jimmy working on something and, being both an extrovert and a geek, attempts to socialize with him.
Hey. Just wondering what you were
Jimmy's
working
like, hey,
on.
man,
Stuff.
let me
Seriously,
be, dude.
Virgil, it's extremely rude to stare at someone else's monitor. Wait a second. This takes place in a high school in the 2000s. How is Jimmy allowed to have a laptop out? Is this study hall or free period? No, it can't be because there's an assignment on the board. Or maybe that's how study halls work. I don't know. The schools I went to never had those.
Maybe.
A student named Nick Connor walks in, and from his actions, you can tell exactly where this story is going to go.
This dick's a dick.
Stop it!
Stop it!
Stop it.
I mean it!
I mean it! Don't!
Personally, I understand how easy it is to accidentally cross the line between messing with someone and bullying them. However, Nick violated Jimmy's
You went
personal
right, like,
space,
right
and Jimmy
there.
verbalized
Yeah,
clearly that he was
fucking
not
don't
okay with
touch my goddamn keyboard. You don't know what I'm working on. Got fucking done something terrible to my fucking program.
those actions. At that point, this
Very
meets
happy with
all
this
the
purchase.
definitions of harassment.
Purchase.
So Nick has no
Not worth
excuse.
it,
He is
but it's worth
definitely in the
purchase.
wrong.
Not cool, Nick. Give me a break, Hawkins. All the time I kept wondering, where's Eagle Eye Coleman when you need her? Of course, I could have told her what was going on.
Whenever I criticize a kid in these reviews, it's pretty much guaranteed that I'll get a comment saying, "Come on, Shady, they're just kids. Why should we expect them to make perfect decisions?" While I agree that the younger you are, the
Why?
easier it is to forgive your actions, that does not mean that they should just be ignored and or overlooked. People can't improve unless they
50-50,
know
Shady.
they're doing something wrong. What I appreciate about this moment is that the episode explains why it's difficult for Virgil to do the right thing here, but still calls him out for not doing it.
Doing the
It's
right
just hard
thing?
to tell on people, you know?
Say
Especially when the guy
something.
won't
You
stand up
see
for
something,
himself.
say something,
Even as an
please,
adult,
Dad.
it's difficult to justify butting into someone else's
You're a
problems.
younger kid
if
watching,
they
you
think
see
the best
something,
solution is to keep
say
quiet,
something.
who are you to tell them how to live their life? I'd also argue that despite him being a superhero, it's within character that Virgil doesn't physically stand up to Nick. While yes, he does have electromagnetic powers, he obviously can't use them here. And it was revealed in the series premiere that Virgil is more of a talker than a fighter, which checks out given his father's influence on him. Later, we see Nick
'Cause he knows
continuing to
better
bully
than
Jimmy.
not to fight.
Jeez, these guys went old school
These
90s
kids.
bullying. None of that cyber nonsense. They pushed the
This
kid
is when
around,
fucking
give him a
pushed
wedgie,
him.
break his
They wedgied
stuff.
his
They were
ass.
close to being 80s bullies, but no punches were thrown. I try to keep an open mind with antagonists in shows, especially with plots that are pushing a narrative, but these actions make Nick and his friends lose all sympathy from me. But Shady, what about empathy? You said in the Tuca and Birdie video that we should be empathetic to everyone, even our enemies. The episode hasn't gone into Nick's perspective. Isn't it being biased? Jeez,
No.
you gotta bring up the Tuca and Birdie video? I made that thing years ago. Okay, in the real world, you should always try to fully understand any problem you get involved with, which
try.
usually means listening to all sides, even if one seems clearly in the wrong. However, in a story, relevant perspective heavily depends on plot and narrative. I criticized Tuca and Birdie because the narrative was about how Birdie was being mistreated by certain men in her life. The perspective of those men, however, could have determined that rather than being mistreated, Birdie was just being treated in a way she didn't like, which is a very different conversation. In this episode, the narrative is that a series of events that could have been prevented by multiple parties caused something bad to happen. Yes, there is a possibility that Nick could have had a good reason for doing what he's doing, but that reason wouldn't prove nor disprove the narrative, making it irrelevant. So the episode is fully within its rights to present Nick as just a typical bully without any other context needed. Well, I think you're just sexist. Yeah, I guess that's why I said the same thing about Valior and Starfire. Besides, I can't be sexist. Some of my best friends are female. Really? No, that was a lie. They're all guys. After the bullying, Virgil and Richie help Jimmy get his things.
You gotta report this, Jimmy. Take it to the principal.
Mind your own business.
Believing they can at least do something, Virgil and Richie visit Jimmy at his house and offer to replace the mouse the bullies broke.
See that layer of dust? Non-use.
Virgil, maybe clean things before you give them
like,
away.
Don't give me
Jimmy,
a
I'm
fucking
going
dirty
to.
mouse.
Oh, visitors. You should have told me you were inviting friends over. Well, I'm glad you're here anyway. Help yourselves to a snack. I'll be back.
A way more calm reaction than what my parents would have had.
Like,
Ain't
the
no
fuck
way
you
they would
doing
leave
here?
kids they didn't know alone in their house, especially not
Get
without a
out.
heads up.
Try not to chase them away, okay?
Measuring. Okay, the attempt to establish Jimmy has trouble making friends was just subtle enough. The stuff in Jimmy's room immediately makes an impression on his fellow geeks.
See this? It's a prop from Star Force. Or I could show you something even cooler. I could show you a real gun.
Wait. I missed the line. Hold on. Go back. I missed the line.
Just subtle enough. The
What
stuff
was
in
it?
Jimmy's room immediately makes an impression on his fellow geeks.
See this? It's a prop from Star Force. Or I could show you something even cooler.
Get some
I
ass
could show
in
you
my
a
head
real gun.
Fuck.
I'm sorry. I know that was supposed to be a really serious, really dramatic bomb drop, but you gotta see it from my perspective. Jimmy has 2 guests in his room. He wants to impress them, so he casually walks over to the black one and says, "Hey, you wanna see a gun?"
He goes to the black one.
I feel like there are some implications there.
Oh,
Virgil freaks out when he hears Jimmy can get access to a gun.
No,
this is a natural response for any kid to have, but given that Virgil's mom died from being shot, it hits closer to home for him. He storms out of the house with Richie supporting his decision. As the two leave, narrator Virgil foreshadows the rules of Chekhov.
I must sound like a major chicken.
No, Virgil, you did the right thing leaving Jimmy's house.
Well, I'd say the right thing to do would have been to inform Jimmy's parents that he could easily get his hands on their gun if he wanted to, but I don't blame Virgil for not thinking to do that.
Every day more than
50-50.
10 young people
do.
die from guns, including
But
those
he's
who were
right.
shot by a family's handgun.
That number sounds massively inflated.
That's not
I mean,
a right
maybe
number.
today I could believe that, but back in the 2000s? Maybe she's talking about international statistics rather than US numbers, in which case, that's a very misleading statement considering culture. Virgil explains how, after hearing an apology from Jimmy, he and Richie start hanging out with him more.
Although he had a pretty odd definition of recreation.
How is being on one's laptop an odd definition of recreation? I know this is
Maybe
the
he's working
2000s,
on a
but there was
program,
plenty to
Virgil.
do on a
Fuck
computer
you.
even back then. This is why, even though Virgil is supposed to be extremely smart and a geek, I don't consider him a nerd. I know canonically he's a genius, but he seems to only do that kind of stuff when it's required of him. Unlike Richie, Virgil usually has no passion for intellectual activities.
Come on, Jim, shoot some hoops. I'm not very good.
That never stopped Richie.
Hey!
Here.
I highly encourage treating people this way to get them into new activities. Despite being 6'7", I put off playing basketball until college because people constantly raged at me whenever I played. Apparently, the tall one has to be good at that game or they're not worth existing.
Shit.
Not his fault. What the crap kind of hoop is that? Why is the rim in the middle of the backboard? Nick shows up to start some trouble, but before he can get too deep into it, Mr. Hawkins and a girl named Frida make an announcement.
Mr. Hawkins says we can use the community center for this year's Dakota Fright Fest. Of course, we'll need lots of volunteers to help set it all up. Jimmy, right? Wanna help?
Nah, before we continue, we gotta give Frida some context. So this was the popular girl of the show. Multiple guys, including Virgil, were trying to get with her throughout the show, though Virgil eventually starts crushing on another girl named Daisy. Shoot, the show starts with 5 different guys wanting to ask Frida out, and you can clearly see why. She's got an alpha personality and is very good at luring people in, especially teenage boys. Look at how she asks Jimmy for help. She calls him by his name despite having never met him before, looks him in the eye to form a connection, smiles so she appears comforting, puts her hands together in a pleading manner to make him feel empowered, and pulls her hair back so Jimmy can clearly see all the signs she's giving him. This in total gets Jimmy to agree, to which Frida thanks him with a hug, a positive reinforcement that will make helping her feel rewarding. Thus, Jimmy will want to keep doing it. All of this is textbook feminine charm, and there are very few who could resist it when it's this well executed. The point is, Frida is supposed to be an enchanting character. This is something she does all the time, but it works really well on Jimmy, probably more than she expected it to. For Jimmy, the day Frida graced him was the most important day of his life, but for Frida, it was Tuesday. Anyway, some nights pass and the decorations for the festival start popping up. Wait a minute, bats, ghosts, Fright Fest? This is a Halloween episode. No! I've been Smeckledorfed again! Y'all requested this episode knowing good and well I don't do holiday videos when they're relevant. But you did Christmas videos last December. Now my reputation is forever tarnished because y'all just had to get your Halloween fix. Virgil describes how Jimmy was better at decorating than everyone else, despite him being mentally isolated in his own world. Can't tell if this is the episode wanting to further demonstrate how alone Jimmy is, or if they're just trying to flesh out his character.
¿Por qué no los dos?
On the day before the opening, Jimmy heads to Frida to show her some of his new decorations. Unfortunately for him, Nick is also there.
How'd you like to go out after Fright Fest tomorrow?
Well, we're all sort of going out together at Burger Fool.
You and Osgood, huh?
I am not interested in Jimmy Osgood.
Ooh.
Poor Jimmy.
That was painful. Don't worry, Jimmy. Getting rejected gets easier with time and practice. So I've heard. Nick catches Jimmy eavesdropping and doesn't like it, so he decides to try and teach him a lesson. Despite this not only being a maze, but one Jimmy helped build, Nick somehow is able to corner the dude. He and his compadres once again pull out one of the OG bully tactics and shove Jimmy in a locker.
Let me out! Let me out!
Wait a second.
Let me out! Let me out!
Oh goodness, Richard Stephen Horvitz, is that you? Wow, I didn't even realize it until Jimmy raised his voice. Once he started screaming, I suddenly got Billy flashbacks.
Destroy us all! Destroy us all!
Virgil and Richie are able to rescue Jimmy, but not before the mental damage has been done. So this might seem relatively tame for a superhero show, but it's important to remember that Jimmy is just a regular kid. I've seen worse things happen to people, but that primal fear of helplessness activates in different moments for everyone. The scene makes it very clear that with this action, Nick and his friends crossed some kind of line.
Fright Fest came and went the next night. Jimmy never showed up.
Wait, what? After all that buildup, we don't get to see the festival?
Jimmy didn't come.
I know it isn't the focus of the episode, but it's difficult for me to just brush aside an event that they spent a good amount of time talking about. I'm looking at you, High School Musical. We transitioned to sometime after Fright Fest. I'm tempted to say it's the next day, but that would mean they did Fright Fest on a school night, which is not smart. Nick, in an attempt to get back on Frida's good side, offers to help take down the decorations. Elsewhere, Virgil and his dad are on their way to the community center when Virgil suggests they swing by Jimmy's.
Hey, Jimmy, it's me, Virgil. Jimmy?
Jimmy's
Wow, some screensavers. The battle journal.
How many times we gotta go through this? Virgil, it is rude to look through someone else's computer.
All I wanted was to be left
somebody who
alone.
writes a fucking
And they wouldn't even do that.
manifesto.
The introvert mantra.
Well, it ends tonight. I'm putting a stop to them. Once and for all.
You gotta come upstairs right now.
He doesn't mean it. Your son's depressed, Mr. Osgood. I work with kids, and I can tell you, you can't dismiss this.
Okay, but why did you open
Then
the
why didn't we
curtains?
just
I mean, other than it
leave?
being a metaphor for everyone finally seeing what Jimmy's been hiding.
Pops, Jimmy told me he knew where he could get a gun.
It's gone. What were you thinking, having a handgun in the house where a kid could get to it?
Yeah, Mr. Osgood, that's definitely your B. I'm all for the Second Amendment, but personal responsibility is my first and foremost priority. Still, it's difficult not to sympathize with the guy. He didn't know his son was going through these issues and trusted him enough to keep the gun around. Virgil figures Jimmy might be at the community center. Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Osgood notify the police and begin to make their way there. Is there no phone at the community center? I feel like someone there needs to know. In fact, Virgil, you have a walkie-talkie that can reach Richie and you know he's headed there. Virgil wants to go as well, but Mr. Hawkins is a good dad and knows not to bring his son into a dangerous situation like that. At the community center, we see that Virgil was right and that both Jimmy and Nick are indeed there.
What's that?
A gun.
And now I got Moxie flashbacks.
What is also
That's not funny.
What does
Breaking
it
my
look like,
computer wasn't
stupid?
funny. Shoving me in the locker wasn't funny.
Jimmy has almost reached the point of no return. However, Frida and Richie, two of the people who were actually nice to Jimmy, managed to talk him down. Unfortunately, Nick's friends are also watching this encounter, and once Jimmy lets his guard down,
Get him!
Oh, it hurts. It's not like on TV.
So, we finally reached the previewed climax. Jimmy was pushed to a point where he decided to use a gun, but only wound up hurting one of his friends. And yeah, I think I was right earlier. The impact isn't as effective since I spent the whole episode knowing something was going to happen to Richie. Like, imagine watching this thinking it's just going to be another regular episode, and then suddenly Richie gets shot. It would have been a lot more jarring.
They said Jimmy looked really confused and angry.
So you weren't there when it happened?
Well, then I gotta text
No.
my food order.
I really
now.
like the
Shit.
attention to detail that Virgil claims he wasn't there to see anything, even though Static did show up. Virgil's apparently really good at hiding his identity, you know, as long as we ignore the Carmendilla thing.
I'm mad at Jimmy for shooting my friend. I'm mad at Nick for messing with Jimmy. I'm mad at myself for not telling somebody when I first heard about the gun. I'm mad at everyone.
As Virgil leaves the office, he
fuck, what are
catches
we gonna
Frida on
order?
the way out. They talk about Jimmy and how he'll be getting counseling, as well as going to juvie.
Double quarter pounder meal, no pickles, no onions.
What about him?
and a Coke.
Suspension. He also has to do some community service.
He's getting off easy.
Don't make me do it. I don't want to do
You're
it.
getting off
You
easy.
can't make me do it. I'm about to do it. Get your angry comments ready, guys. What I'm about to say is not gonna win me any popularity contests. Yes, Nick is a scumbag, and I don't feel any sympathy for him when it comes to his punishment. But what does Virgil mean he's getting off easy? The guy's a bully, and last I checked, suspension and community service were just punishments for bullies. Now, maybe Virgil means that Nick should have been expelled, or that he also should have gone to juvie, which I can understand. But my guess is, with the way that line was delivered, it seems like the episode is trying to say the gun incident is Nick's fault. That's not something I agree with. Don't get it twisted, all of Nick's actions were wrong, but he is not responsible for how Jimmy responded to those actions. Jimmy should not have resorted to stealing a gun and then trying to use it. But Shady, seriously? Again? Yes. But Shady, you said in one of your King of the Hill videos and in your Riot video that the person inciting the incident is largely at fault for where it goes. What makes this situation any different? I did say that, didn't I? Okay, there are a couple of reasons why these situations aren't one-to-one. Firstly, I don't consider all these separate moments of Nick bullying to be one incident. In the moment with the gun, Nick hadn't done anything to Jimmy except tease him. He even says sorry immediately after, though obviously he was just trying to please Frida. Jimmy's act of pulling out the gun was not a proper response to what was happening in the moment, as opposed to Raya and Bobby, who were both defenders in their respective situations. Jimmy wasn't defending himself. He was either trying to get revenge or trying to preemptively end any future bullying. Second, both Raya and Bobby took what they believed to be the best path for them at the time. Jimmy had other options to solve his problem that he refused to utilize. He could have informed an adult, learned to defend himself, or done a myriad of other things to deal with Nick. He chose to take the most extreme route, which was also a route he knew was wrong. You can blame Jimmy for his actions or Jimmy's parents, since it was their gun and they were responsible.
I'm not even subscribed to Shady. Fuck. But
surround yourself with the man.
Oh fuck! This girl, I started watching her channel a while ago this morning. Mila Tequila. Oh, and she's so pretty. But it goes over all the characters, but it's like 14 minutes, and let's go see. Oh, Disney.
Disney have dropped their long-awaited 100th anniversary celebration short, Once Upon a Studio, which includes over 500 Disney characters coming together for the first time in the studio's history. There's old favorites, new favorites, and obscure deep cuts. No matter how familiar you are, I've got your back. Let's break down every single character in Once Upon a Studio, shot by shot. The first characters to make their appearances are, of course, Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, who leap from a photo taken from classic 1942 Mickey Mouse cartoon, Mickey's Birthday Party. Next is, of course, Tinkerbell from Peter Pan, who whizzes past a scenic background from Sleeping Beauty before helping Mickey, Minnie, and other characters escape from their frames. Next up, we find Princess and the Frog's Tiana teaming up with Pinocchio and Nick and Judy from Zootopia, before they're all joined by Tiana's pal from the bayou, Louis the Gator. Next up, Bambi, Thumper, and Flower all escape frames from Bambi, while Wilbur, Bernard, and Miss Bianca from The Rescuers and The Rescuers Down Under, Disney's first sequel, follow through. Minnie is then seen walking the halls with Bolt, Mittens, and Rhino from Bolt before Peter Pan flies through, bringing Wendy, John, and Michael Darling with him. Aladdin and Abu from Aladdin come sliding down the studio staircase. Moana's Maui soon makes an incredibly grand entrance from one of the studio's weight rooms, even taking his hawk form. Wreck-It Ralph's Vanellope speeds through, with Oliver from Oliver and Company. Raya and the Last Dragon's Sisu comes bounding along, providing a solar surfing obstacle for Treasure Planet's Jim Hawkins. A blink and you'll miss it moment comes from Prep and Landing from Disney's series of early 2010s cartoon shorts swinging from the rafters, while Elliot from Pete's Dragon flies by with Rescuers Down Under's Cody. Soon, Moana herself drops from the ceiling, catching the Little Mermaid's flounder. Next, a visit to the studio's coffee stop, the Snuggly Duckling, a throwback to Tangled, sees a mishmash of characters congregating. everything, including Merlin and the Little Blue Saucepan from Sword in the Stone, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts and Chip from Beauty and the Beast, the Mad Hatter and the March Hare from Alice in Wonderland, and Lucille Crunklehorn from Meet the Robinsons. Soon enough, one of the penguin waiters from Mary Poppins comes waddling through. Next up, Frozen's Elsa and Anna walk past a Litwax arcade sign from Wreck-It Ralph, while Pinocchio's Stromboli takes a fit of anger out on a vending machine. It also appears that Moana is the icon on the ladies' toilets. Frozen's Hans tries to escape from an image, however Elsa stops him right in his tracks, freezing him shut. Everyone's favourite Donald Duck soon joins an elevator full of characters, including two short-lived 1950s Donald Foyles, Humphrey Bear and Park Ranger J. Audubon Woodlaw, Tarzan's Turk, Carl the Robot from Meet the Robinsons, and Tangled's Mother Gothel. Of course, the whole crew is stuck waiting in the elevator
Flash.
for Zootopia's Flash the Sloth. It's a crew of cool dudes ready themselves in the bathroom. Robin Hood's Prince.
Hold on, I gotta send a picture of this.
John, Aristocats, Thomas O'Malley Cat, Atlantis, The Lost Empire's Milo, Chicken Little's Chicken Little, Beauty and the Beast's Gaston, Snow White's Happy, and the Headless Horseman from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow segment from package feature The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Alice in Wonderland's Cheshire Cat also makes a surprise appearance. We then enter an animator's room where Frozen's Olaf is sketching a drawing. Floating past, we see Robin Williams's Robin from obscure 1989 TV special Back to Neverland, while the Lion King's Timon and Pumbaa trot by. With a little Disney magic, Aladdin's genie, fueled by never-before-heard Robin Williams outtakes, bursts out of Olaf's drawing board, making an enormous scene. Cinderella's Jack and Gus appear on a table, about to be devoured by Rescuers Down Under's Joanna the Goanna, before Mickey's faithful pup Pluto comes to the rescue. Next, Christopher Robin, Kanga and Eeyore help pull Winnie the Pooh from a painting where he finds himself stuck, much like in short film Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, later issued in The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh package feature. Then Moana's Pua, Encanto's Antonio Madrigal, Pocahontas's Miko, Tangled's Pascal, Mulan's Cricky, and a pair of birds from Cinderella bound through. Scrooge McDuck soon jumps from a frame from Mickey's Christmas Carol, bags of money in hand, naturally, before they're stolen by Robin's Hood, Robin, and Little John. Naturally. Still waiting for Flash the Sloth, Baymax from Big Hero 6 soon joins the elevator crew. The 101 Dalmatians, or a small group of them, are then seen watching the Night on Bald Mountain sequence from Fantasia, featuring the demon Chernobog, who fires out of the screen. Walking past, we then see Mole, Rat, and Angus McBadger from the Wind in the Willows segment of The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. They're flanked by Kristoff and Sven from Frozen, who are led by Honey Marin and Ryder from Frozen 2. The Little Mermaid's Ursula storms the halls with Splat from Strange World in tow. Cinderella and the Prince from Cinderella soon descend the staircase, this time the Prince losing his shoe, which is taken by Little Mermaid's Max. Another unlikely pair, the Jungle Book's Car and cult favourite Clarabelle Cow, arrive on the screen, closely followed by Tangled's Rapunzel, who off-screen donks Car on the head with her frying pan. Here we come across the most beautiful moment of the whole short, as Mickey pays respects to his father, the one who started it all, the incredible Mr. Walt Disney. But the gig is not up yet. A staircase is adorned by over half a dozen more characters. Grand Pabbie, the King of the Trolls from Frozen, Skippy and Toby Turtle from Robin Hood, the elderly Art and Dot from 2021 short Us Again, Madame Medusa from Rescuers Down Under, Bowler Hat Man from Meet the Robinsons, Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, Ethan, Searcher and Meridian Clade from Strange World, rare 1930s character Clara Cluck, Mickey, Goofy and Donald's rival Pete, Giselle from Zootopia, the very obscure Johnny Fedora and Alison Blue Bonnet from their self-titled segment of package feature Make Mine Music, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, and Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Next, the studio door is opened by Raya and the Last Dragon's Raya, while Sword in the Stone's Madame Mim waits alongside Flynn Rider and Maximus from Tangled. Mickey then re-enters the scene, riding on the back of Dumbo the Flying Elephant from Dumbo. They're followed by Wreck-It Ralph's titular goofball, who smacks into the door. The Lion King Scar, of course, drops by to pass his judgment. However, the Wind in the Willows' Mr. Toad from Ichabod and Toad gives him the fright of his life as he speeds past on Aladdin's magic carpet. Jock and Trusty from Lady and the Tramp soon walk by, followed by Flora, Fauna and Merryweather from Sleeping Beauty. Underneath, a litany of Disney characters team up for a star photo. It's here where we get to see a whole bunch of other characters. Fans will be very happy to see Oswald the Lucky Rabbit certainly wasn't forgotten, making a funny little appearance. Also appearing are Amos the Mouse and Benjamin Franklin from early 50s cartoon Ben and Me, Phil from Hercules, Rat and Tuke from Brother Bear, Maggie, Grace and Mrs. Calloway from Home on the Range, Small One from 1978 cartoon The Small One, and Wind in the Willows' Cyril Proudbottom, all whom sit upon the shoulders of Encanto's Louisa Madrigal. We also have Cusco and Pancha from Emperor's New Groove, the Wicked Stepsisters from Cinderella, Captain Hook and Mr. Smee from Peter Pan, Colonel Hathi and Winifred Elephants from The Jungle Book, and the Three Little Pigs from the classic early 30s Silly Symphonies cartoons. Ichabod Crane from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow segment of Ichabod and Mr. Toad nearly gets his head knocked off by Goofy, who stumbles through with a ladder. Lion King's Rafiki soon pops in to give Goofy, the photographer, his camera, while Lilo and Stitch pop by to help out after he crashes off his ladder. The broomsticks from the Sorcerer's Apprentice segment of Fantasia also stop by to help clean up, as does Wreck-It Ralph's Fix-It Felix, Hercules from Hercules, and Cinderella's fairy godmother. Others who line up for their photo include Jafar and Iago from Aladdin, Chief Bogo from Zootopia, Casey from Make Mine Music Sequence, Casey at the Bat, Tarzan and Jane from Tarzan, Horace Horsecollar, Simba and Nala from The Lion King, Eeyore Rabbit and Gopher from Winnie the Pooh, Grumpy from Snow White, Hyacinth Hippo from the Dance of the Hours segment of Fantasia, Captain Amelia from Treasure Planet, Mr. Big, Frou-Frou and Kozlov from Zootopia, Jamba Jukiba from Lilo and Stitch, the entire Big Hero 6 squad, Friar Tuck from Robin Hood, Ludwig von Drake, cult favourite Duck family member who initially appeared in a series of 1960s Wonderful World of Colour episodes, the Big Bad Wolf from the Three Little Pigs Silly Symphonies, Arthur from Sword in the Stone, King Leonidas from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Officer Clawhauser from Zootopia, Sergeant Calhoun from Wreck-It Ralph, Alma and Isabella Madrigal from Encanto, Jasmine from Aladdin, Daisy Duck, Coda and Kanai from Brother Bear, Kida from Atlantis, Alan A. Dale the Rooster from Robin Hood, Johnny Appleseed from the self-titled segment in Melody Time, Hathi Jr. from Jungle Book, Scat Cat from Aristocats, Tafita Mutton Fudge from Wreck-It Ralph, Mirabella Madrigal from Encanto, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, Lewis and Wilbur Robinson from Meet the Robinsons, Belle and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, Pecos Bill and his horse Widowmaker from the Pecos Bill segment in package feature Melody Time, Penny from The Rescuers, Hades from Hercules, Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, Princess Aurora and Prince Philip from Sleeping Beauty, John Henry and his magic hammer from the 2000 short film John Henry, Quasimodo and the Gargoyles, Victor, Hugo and Laverne from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Edgar Balthazar from Aristocats, Madame Odie from Princess and the Frog, Giulietta and Augustin Madrigal from Encanto, Todd and Copper from Fox and the Hound, Gurgi from The Black Cauldron, Pocahontas and Flit the Hummingbird from Pocahontas, Juan and Tong from Raya and the Last Dragon, Timothy Q. Mouse and Dumbo from Dumbo, Basil Q. Mouse, Olivia and Dr. Dawson from The Great Mouse Detective, Thomas, Duchess, Marie, Toulouse and Berlioz from Aristocats, Nessie from the 2011 short The Ballad of Nessie, Ariel, Prince Eric and Scuttle from The Little Mermaid, Jaeger Clade from Strange World, Dolores Madrigal from Encanto, Baloo and Mowgli from The Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp from Lady and the Tramp, the Golden Harp from the Mickey and the Beanstalk segment of Fun and Fancy Free, Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, Runt of the Litter from Chicken Little, Shank from Ralph Breaks the Internet, Creeper from Black Cauldron, Nani and David from Lilo and Stitch, Megara from Hercules, Lieutenant Matthias from Frozen 2, Lambert the Sheepish Lion from the self-titled 1952 cartoon short, Princess Elanui, Taran and Hen Wen from Black Cauldron, the fairest one of all, Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Mulan from Mulan, Aisha from Disney's upcoming feature Wish, Oaken from Frozen, Robin Hood and Maid Marian from Robin Hood, Lumiere and Fifi from Beauty and the Beast, Pooh and Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, the trees from the groundbreaking Silly Symphony cartoon Flowers and Trees, Pedro the Aeroplane from the Pedro segment of Saludos Amigos, the Skeletons from the Skeleton Dance Silly Symphony, Susie the Little Blue Coupe from the self-titled 1952 cartoon short, Prince Charming and the Evil Queen in Disguise from Snow White, Prince Naveen from Princess and the Frog, Aladar and a couple of lemurs from Dinosaur, Centaurs from the Pastoral Symphony segment of Fantasia, some Lost Boys from Peter Pan, Jose Carioca and Panchito Pistales from the Three Caballeros, all of the Seven Dwarfs from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I am sure there are hundreds more that are too blurry to even make out. The short rounds out with a bunch of characters adorning the credits, most of which appeared during the short.
There are so many. I have to pee, though. I will return. Returned. Ugh, I don't know what I just ran over, but I ran over something. What else can we watch on YouTube today? Dream Jelly put out a new video. Well, that's weird. Oh, they're here. I'll get my food in a second. Actually, I will return in a couple of minutes. Don't anybody die.